Okay, Nick,
Hi.
I'm so excited to be here with my dear friend, Dr. Nick, for the very first live Love Health Conversations. So, Dr. Nick is a dynamic board certified family medicine physician with a wealth of experience. His coaching and medical practice are focused on the practical implementation of diet, exercise, and specific lifestyle choices for health optimization. He has an undergraduate degree in mechanical engineering and utilizes engineering principles when dealing with complex systems such as human health, nutrition, and movement. Welcome, Nick. How's it going?
I am happy to be here, but I did not know until you just said it. This is your very first live Love Health conversation?
Well, I did no. That's okay. I've done live conversations before. I did one with Graciano and
Okay.
Tom McCoy,
Okay.
but I was calling it the CrossFit for Health Summit something. I don't know. And then I was like, ugh,
Mm,
I want to do something that's so much more fun. And then
absolutely.
you are so dynamic and so cool. And I was like, let's just make it better. And so came up with Love
Absolutely.
Health Conversations.
To be honest, because Rubio and Tom are probably going to hear this. I highly doubt that those two. They're two of my favorite people, so I highly doubt it's going to be much better than theirs. So no worries.
Okay, well, while we're on the CrossFit for Health Summit, like you
Sure.
were a panelist there, your contribution was incredible. What
Thank
was
you.
your experience of that event?
I thought it was an amazing weekend. So Karen and I actually met at a level one, I believe. Yeah, at a level one session. And I think that was my very first experience being surrounded by other doctors who also CrossFit, not just doctors, but other people in the healthcare sphere. And it is always an invigorating experience because, when you're not in that specific bubble, you're only around doctors who very often, not all of them, but very often are hypocritical, practice medicine in a way that you do not practice medicine, think about things in a way that you do not think about things as it pertains to health and longevity. So the CrossFit for Health Summit for me was very much the same as all the CrossFit health oriented events that I go to, in that it's incredibly inspiring. It's reinvigorating to be around people who are like-minded, who see things as you do and realize that, lifestyle truly is the most important and the most powerful mechanism and modality for change that any of us could hope to partake in.
I love that because I've never heard you talk about this, but I've seen stuff written about how you critique medical training in med school, right? Because it doesn't address nutrition and lifestyle. What are some of the radical changes that you would propose to better prepare physicians for the challenges of the modern healthcare system?
Wow, Karan, that's a great question. I would say fundamentally, nutrition needs to be discussed in a much more comprehensive and elaborate manner. At my med school, Ohio State, the Ohio State University College of Medicine, we discussed nutrition. It was not. I mean, it was. I think the best way to address our curriculum as it pertains to nutrition is cursory. It was a very cursory, very scant, very just lacking in detail. And it's I because of that, I think that should be the primary focus of any medical school, where we discuss with each and every budding physician, budding doctor, hey, these are what fats are, carbohydrates, proteins, macronutrients, the importance of micronutrients, going into detail, especially this day and age, going into detail about all the non-nutritive substances in our foods, especially processed foods, and why they may not be advantageous and could actually be killing us, as study after study is showing increased incidence of cancer and other maladies with processed food intake. So I think fundamentally, what I would propose is a dramatic shift in the nutrition curriculum, making it much more expansive, making doctors realize the power of their patients choosing the right foods over the long term, especially when it comes to potentially preventing disease, or at least mitigating risk of disease. Secondarily, I would say even on top of that, I think, listen, none of us are amoebas, right? We're all very mobile. We're not static creatures, and because we're all very mobile, I think that fundamentally, as doctors, we should have some degree. I'm not saying that doctors should be personal trainers or we should be coaches for our clients, but I think that there is utility in having some degree of training as it pertains to functional movements, to things that people are going to be doing as part and parcel of just their everyday life. And if we have fundamental training in that, and obviously I've already gotten that from CrossFit, so I speak as somebody who already has that information. But I think that all too often I've seen colleagues of mine, especially in residency, who it was very clear that they were living lives that would essentially label them as hypocrites. If they were to give the same advice that I were to give to my patients, a patient would sit in front of them, and whether or not they verbalize their thought or not, that patient would look at their doctor and think, you're a hypocrite. You're not living that life. Why would you be telling me to do this when you so clearly are not? So I think that there is absolutely something to be said for not just refining nutrition, and making the nutrition curriculum more comprehensive, but at least giving physicians a modicum, right, at bare minimum, a modicum of training as it pertains to functional movement, and recommending the correct modalities and trainings for their patients. Because I don't think you can't sit here and say, I've never, ever since I started CrossFit, I've never been the type of person to say everybody needs a CrossFit. But I do tell my patients, guess what? Everybody needs to do something. There needs to be something that you enjoy and you need to be consistent with. Is it snowboarding? Is it Pilates? Is it skiing? Is it yoga? I don't care what it is, but you need to find something that will hold you through from a degree of motivation and dedication and enjoyment, right? Because to some extent, you're not going to be you're not going to choose an exercise modality if you don't enjoy it to some extent. So I think the doctors would be a lot more comfortable counseling their patients to pick a modality, pick something. Doing nothing, at least in my opinion, is unacceptable. And I tell my patients this: you cannot do you. I cannot ask you, okay, what do you do for exercise and movement? And your answer to me is, I don't do anything, and you expect me to be okay with that and not to try to counsel you to choose something. Like, that's just not ever going to be me. And if I have to lose patients because of that, because they don't want to hear that from me, then so be it. But I think that everybody should have something. And I think that fundamentally, if doctors are trained on, like I said, even a modicum of exercise training, it would be a lot easier for them to give that recommendation, or for them to give the appropriate recommendation.
Do you think there's a shift in our healthcare system moving
Towards
away
that?
from the traditional approach, of just prescribing medication, and really a focus on lifestyle? So how are we going to change that? Because I see Tiffy says, I'm a nurse practitioner. I would love to see more nutrition training for all providers. Absolutely. How are we going to create this change?
I think so. Hi, Tiffany. I can't see you. I can't see Tiffany's comment, but hi, Tiffany. So yeah. So I think that's a good question. Listen, I think I've always been, I've always had a very different type of mindset when it pertains to kind of changing the world. I don't believe anybody can do that. And personally, I don't try to do that. I don't sit here and have, a degree of hubris and ego to believe that I can change the world and absolutely, change what everybody does. I do believe that we all have a sphere of influence, right? And for example, Karan, you are one of my people who you influence me, right? I would hope that to some degree I influence you, and we all have our sphere of influence, and I think that if you keep that in mind, the most you can do is maximize your degree of influence amongst your sphere of influence. And one of the best ways that I found that you can do that is to simply not be a hypocrite. Simply live what you preach, right? Be an example to everybody who sees you in the way you live, in the decisions you make. For example, the total aside, I just literally thought of this. I have a community that we could talk about later,
I want
but
to talk about
we
that.
had, we had a Q&A call yesterday, and one of the guys who's 60 years old, his name is James. He joined the community about a month and a half ago, and I asked him yesterday in the Q&A call, I asked him, James, why did you join? And he said, because my son has been out to dinner with you multiple times, and every time he comes back, he just talks about you endlessly. And he told, well, no, I'm going to tell you something that will make you laugh. He said that my son told me that you have a degree of dedication and commitment, and he told me a story that one time you guys went to the restaurant and you pulled out a scale and you put it on the table. Cara, and I literally said to James, I don't remember doing that with your son, but that sounds like something I would do. That absolutely sounds like something I would do, right?
Wait, we have to just pause here because I have been to dinner with you where you pull out a mixer where you mix your protein shake before dinner so you can get enough protein during dinner, where it's like a little portable electric mixer.
Sure,
So yes,
sure.
I hear you and I believe that story.
Sure. But the reason why I bring up that story, right, is because I am doing things day to day. I'm not even aware, cognizant in any manner. I'm not cognizant in any manner that people are watching me and that what I'm doing is so far out of the norm for them that they're going home and then telling their dad that say, he's like, he has so much willpower, or he's so strict with what he does. And in my mind, I'm like, this is just normal. Like, I don't know what you're, I don't know what life you're living. To me, this is normal, right? So I think that to go back to her question, which was a great question, I think the best thing you can do is live a life that everyone in your sphere absolutely can observe you and see, okay, wow, this person, not only clearly lives day to day, right? But they have the results. They even have the results, right? Whatever results they determine kind of rise to the top for them as being most important. But I think it is important for you to have the results that would be indicative of consistently following your practices, whatever practices you choose over the long term. So personally, I'm not going to sit here. I listen, I do believe, yes, there are some people who, you're going to want to find a leadership position in an organization that potentially has a lot of influence in the healthcare system. That's okay. If that's what you choose to do, I'm not going to sit here and who the hell am I? I'm not going to say that will not work. I just know that personally, with the type of kind of almost libertarian mindset that I have, I'm very much of the mindset that, hey, listen, if you want to smoke that cigarette, you can smoke that cigarette. Absolutely. Go ahead, smoke away. However, the thing that you cannot escape are the consequences of smoking that cigarette, right? The universe, like yin and yang applies, their causality applies, cause and effect is ruthless. So if you want to choose a specific choice, that's fine. Just keep in mind when you choose that choice, you are also choosing the consequences, whether they be good or bad over the long term. And who the hell am I to sit here and try to convince somebody, unless that person wants me to convince them? If they're my patient, if they're my clients, if they're in my community and they're coming to me for advice, absolutely, I'm going to sit there and I'm going to try to convince them out of their ways. But knowing me, I'm not going to actually tell them to stop doing it. I'm going to instead go for their mindset, because usually I found that if I could break somebody's mindset down as it pertains to a specific decision of theirs, I can completely, if I can change your mindset, I can change your actions. I don't need to change your actions. I need to get down to the root cause and change the way you think. But I'm also not the type of person to just volunteer my opinion to everybody and just try to shove my opinion down people's throat, right? I'm going to only give you my opinion and only give you my encouragement and my recommendations if you come to me seeking change.
I love that. Okay, Nick, who's that bald guy that I can see in the mirror behind you?
Oh, he's just a friend. He's working. Hey, are you talking crap about the ball guys, Carl? Okay, come on. It's a little bit of a low blow.
Okay, before we move on to the community and stuff, well, so first of all, when you were talking, I mean, when you look through your Instagram, and I have traveled with you, I've had the privilege of, being away with you many times for various events, and you 100% walk your talk, and that's one of the reasons I greatly admire you and why we're friends as well. Reminds me of the Gandhi quote: "Be the change you wish to see in the world." Show up as
Yes.
who you want to be and influence,
Mhm.
and that's exactly what you do.
Sure.
Um, Before we move on to your community, I would love to just touch on your thoughts on semaglutide, and a quick fix to weight loss and lifestyle. You talked about mindset being the most important thing. I think with so many drugs out there, there's go get liposuction, go get a tummy tuck, like, and I think there's a place for all of that stuff once you get to a point where you have worked so hard, but you just cannot get rid because you've had like so many kids or whatever. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on prescription medication.
So I think you just hit the nail on the head that there is a place for these things. I do not argue that there is a place, right? But I think that all too often, reflexively, not just reflexively from the patient standpoint, but reflexively from the healthcare practitioner standpoint, we will jump to this as the first solution. We will jump to this as the first option, right? And I think that that is negligent on so many counts. You can't just, if somebody is having difficulty losing weight, I don't think that the first thing, whether as a doctor or as a coach, you should recommend to them is a GLP-1 agonist, right? Or semaglutide, Wegovy, Ozempic. I think that instead, personally, I like to, and this all goes back to what I was saying earlier, right? You need to dig into somebody's lifestyle, and then furthermore, go a layer deeper, and then delve into the mindset that um, that makes them choose that lifestyle for whatever reason, right? Or their constraints, because sometimes people have certain constraints, right? For super busy with kids, super busy with work, they live life in a scenario in a situation rather where fast food is more convenient. I think that all too often, if as an outside observer, somebody outside the looking glass, it's very possible for you to think and realize that there are solutions beyond which the person has determined is their solution, whether that's going to McDonald's, the McDonald's drive. I mean, Karen, you and I both, I know you don't do this, right? I know I don't do this, but there are some people who, for them, it's a regular occurrence to go through the McDonald's drive-through every day. I cannot think about the last time that I went through a McDonald's drive-through or went to Mickey D's for any reason, right? So to go back to your question, yeah, I think fundamentally I do not agree with prescribing Ozempic or semaglutide as a first solution. I think that instead, lifestyle should be explored by somebody who's competent enough and is not a hypocrite, somebody who has a varied body of experience and can potentially recommend an alternative that is efficacious and effective. Um, you know, there have been so many issues that are now coming to bear, right, and becoming more and more well known. And you hear stories, you read news stories about them, you watch news broadcasts about side effects with these medications, right? Because you have to keep in mind a lot of these meds, like Ozempic, one of its very, by its very nature, one of its effects is gastroparesis, right? So it essentially will paralyze some portion of the alimentary canal of the gastrointestinal tract. And essentially, if you're doing that, there are going to be a litany of side effects that sometimes you can predict, other times you can't predict. But I think that the way that things are pushed on us in this society, especially from a commercial standpoint. I'm not a very big television watcher. I think it's a waste of time. But I do know for a fact that you can turn on the TV and see commercials for these medications where all they ever touch on through the commercial, right, is positive, benefit. Nowhere there are they even, probably maybe in the small text, in the fine text at the bottom of the screen, but nowhere else are they ever talking about the negative. So what are they? What these commercials are essentially pushing into the viewer, into their mindset, that there are nothing but benefits to this medication, when in reality there is a laundry list of potential downsides, both short term and long term, that you may not be aware of for another decade or 2 decades. And it's one of these things where, personally, as somebody myself, I just live a life of trying to mitigate risk. I'm not saying I'm not fun, unless you tell me that, Karen, right? But
You're so much fun. Are you kidding me?
I definitely, I do think it is important in all degrees and all elements of life. You don't want to maximize risk, right? And maximizing risk is like, I don't know, you're going to your car on a dark night and you just cut through the alley because it's a shortcut. Like, okay, it's a shortcut, it saves you time, but it also maximizes your risk. It doesn't mitigate your risk, right? As opposed to staying in well-lit areas where there's an abundance of other people, where there's a minimal chance of somebody just attacking you out of the blue. So I think that when you consider mitigating risk, anybody who is truly of the mindset of always mitigating risk, they're going to do whatever they can to stay off any and all medications. And sometimes that will absolutely mandate lifestyle changes that are appropriate, that may not be desired lifestyle changes. And I completely understand that. But as I stated earlier, right, causality exists. There's a trade-off everywhere in life. So, if you want to stay off medications and get to old age, well, not even old age, get to these age, middle age, right? I think the average age of first prescription in this country is 28 in the United States. So even to be at our age, right? I'm 40, right? I just turned 40 December 5th.
So old.
And yeah, so old. But hey, it's okay, because I can still power clean 350 pounds. So I'm happy
I
with
love
my
saying it
old
because it
age.
triggers you so much. Yeah, I
It's
can, but I
fine.
can do this.
I can do this. So am I really that old? But no, I think that, ultimately, yeah, yeah. If you want to get to, I think, Karen, in all, so I've, started med school in 2011, graduated med school in 2015. And if I'm thinking about everyone who I've ever seen as a patient ever since 2011, ever since I was a med student, I can literally count on two hands, only 10, less than 10 people, the amount of adults, the amount of people 70 years old and older who are on no medications, who I've seen in my clinic, and I'm doing a well visit on them, and they're on no medications, right? And I can only count, I, out of all the body of patients from 2011, I can count less than 10 people. So what I'm meaning to imply by that is, it is extraordinarily rare to get into old age and be on no medications. And sure, we can sit here and you can blame the world and blame the universe and say, well, those people are lucky. They're that's just luck. That isn't anything that they're doing from their conscious control. And I would actually push back on that, contend and assert that no, actually, if you were to evaluate those 10 people over the course of their entire lives, they're making good decision after good decision, right? They're probably not smoking. They're drinking very rarely. They're exercising even into old age. I mean, they're just doing they're making a number of great decisions that have essentially, over the long term, compound to them reaching 70 and 80 and however old they are, while maintaining their health span, right? You and I both know there's a difference between lifespan and health span.
Yeah.
And all too often, people are only concerned about, hey, okay, well, let me hope that I live as long as possible. But in reality, people should be wanting to not just live as long as possible, but have as long of their life in as healthy a fashion as possible. And if you do have that goal, all of a sudden your decisions from your day-to-day decisions will be optimized and will change accordingly. So yeah, that's kind of my opinion on that.
I love that. And I think, it's so interesting because we live in a society where, especially in America, it wasn't like this when I was still living in South Africa. We Everything's instant gratification, quick
Hmm.
fixes. I mean, our whole environment is developed to make us
Yes.
comfortable. We live in air conditioned, like for me in the desert environments. Like I never have to expose myself to discomfort unless I go in my cold plunge that I've paid $2,000 for. Do you know what I mean? To
Hmm.
teach myself to be more resilient. And
Hmm.
it's just so much easier to just reach for that quick fix and want to go, because the semaglutide stuff is advertising is everywhere. I'm like, I just got to
Right.
tell you, it's $350 and I can lose 20 pounds. Like, and
Right.
that 20 pounds to lose would take me 6 months in the gym and
Right.
eating properly and being super like good about everything.
And these commercials, they never mention the downside, right? They
Yeah.
never mention they never mention the people who have prolific nausea and vomiting, or the people who have there's this thing that I read the other day about stench breath, that some people with on these medications are having stench breath, and it actually makes complete sense, because if they are causing, in some people, if they're causing some degree of gastroparesis, and now instead of having food in your stomach, which is normal for 3 to 4 hours before that food moves into the duodenum of the small intestine and then moves through. No, 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 no. Now you're having food that you're eating stay in the stomach for hours and hours and hours. Then obviously that's going to affect your breath in a negative manner. I mean, there's so many. That's just one example that I'm articulating, but there are so many examples of all these medications and the downsides of taking them consistently. So, but I do agree with you, kind of what you said, and I love the fact that you hit on that, because I have not hit on it previously, and I completely agree. We live in a country, we live in a society that prioritizes instant gratification,
Yeah.
and the,
And good feeling, only feeling good. Don't ever feel
mhm,
anything but good.
right, right. We have to be happy all the time.
Otherwise, yeah. Otherwise, there's something wrong with you.
Right,
Don't
right,
struggle. Don't
right,
fail. Everyone's a
right,
winner. No.
right, right. Right. No, I love that. I love that that's your mindset. And you know what? It's funny because I was talking with a friend yesterday. He is a he works in the lab. He's like, he's basically a lab scientist. He's brilliant. And I was telling him, I was like, yeah, sometimes I was like hanging out with people like you and other friends that I have who are very high performers and highly educated. Sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, man, like I just, I don't feel like I feel like you guys are so much better than me in so many regards, and I like that because obviously it motivates me, and I personally like to hang around with people who make me feel not dumb, but make me feel like I should keep working and keep putting in work and keep getting better. I just like that. I like that continuous motivation. But then he was talking to me. He literally checked me when I said this. He said to me, he was like, Nick, he's like, just you need to think about you. He was like, you went through 4 years of mechanical engineering, you killed it, and you didn't just do well, but you did well enough that essentially a bunch of medical schools wanted you. Then you got into Ohio State, and then you finished med school, and then he was like, and then, okay, so you're a mechanical engineer who's also a medical doctor. But then he was like, think about the last thing that I'm about to say. He was like, you have been doing something that most people hate and cannot keep up with for any more than a couple of months. You've been CrossFitting for 14 years, since 2010. He was like, you've been showing up to the gym every day. And he was like, now look at you physically at 40 years old. Like, he was like, I don't know anybody else at your age or even 5 or 10 years younger than you who physically looks like you. And I think he brought up a good point that helped me check my. I was like, okay, going through engineering, like, and going through med school and going through CrossFit, really, it's almost like I have mastered delayed gratification, and
Yeah.
just going through the suck, and like not ever seeking instant. Oh, I got to get my fix now. I'm like, no, whatever. If it takes years, it takes years. I'll just be consistent with it. And I think that, yeah, it's this is one of those things, Karan, that I think is why it's so important to have community, because when you don't have a community of people who think like I do, I think it becomes all too easy to just only prioritize instant gratification. And for you to think that that's normal, because anybody who's around me, whether it's you, which clearly it isn't, because you and I think the same, but if I have a friend who I can tell is all about instant gratification, I'm going to sit down and I'm just going to have, I'm not going to, it's not going to be a judgmental conversation, but it will be a conversation where I literally delve into his or her mindset. And I will, by the end of the conversation, I will reveal to them that they live a life of just like wanting a quick fix, right? And this is why I think it's so important to have people, to have friends, to have people, whether it's a community or close friends or family, but people with differing mindsets who are willing to push back in a gentle manner. It doesn't need to be adversarial. It doesn't need to be rude. It doesn't need to be arrogant, but you do need to have people who are in your life who are willing to push back and and try to convince you to change your ways. And that can go both ways. That could go towards the good and towards the bad. Here's a really good example of towards the bad that I know you're aware of, Karan. When you go to a bar with friends and you're that person who's drinking water, what's the first thing all your friends are trying to get you to do?
Not anymore because I have been sober 20 years. But
Sure,
when I
sure,
meet new people, to your point, they're like,
sure.
actually, okay, here's the story. I went on a date the other day, like a month ago. It was terrible.
Sure.
Anyway, the
Yeah.
dude was like, he felt so uncomfortable with me not drinking at dinner. Okay. At dinner,
See?
that he
Sure.
said to me, I'm going to make it my mission to get you to drink. And I was like, what the heck?
Yeah.
Seriously? This is not
Yeah.
somebody I want to be hanging out
Yeah.
with or spending time
This,
with. Like,
this is our last date.
I was like, can I leave right now? No, you
Yeah.
know what I mean? Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, hey Ernie, what's up? Just quickly, Ernie was
Wait,
one of
wait, Ernie
yes,
from CrossFit. Hey,
yes.
Ernie, what's up, man? All right, I totally remember Ernie. I know that name.
Oh, he's the
I
best.
think, I think we follow each other on Instagram now. By the way,
Oh, I
so
love that.
yeah,
Ernie is a
yeah,
little
Ernie's
powerhouse for
awesome.
sure. And then Craig also
Yeah,
jumped in to say hi. So, hey, Craig. I'm so
hey, Craig.
grateful to everyone here for listening. Nick, sorry to derail the conversation with my awful
Sure.
dating story, but I obviously
No,
need to get
no,
that trauma out. But go back to
no.
the point.
No, your dating story was right on point. My fundamental point that brought you up to your dating story is for whatever reason, like, yeah, you can have people who want to shift your life in a positive direction. Just as easily, though, you can have people who want to shift your life in the negative direction, right? Hey, why aren't you? Oh, Ernie, what's up, Ernie? Why aren't you? Why aren't you drink? How many times have I been in a bar and I will literally, I think it's fascinating. I'll literally sit there at a bar and I'll be like, this is like I'm one of these people who like maybe my self-assessment is incorrect, but I genuinely feel like I am impervious to peer pressure because I cognitively observe it happening as it's happening, and then I will just like talk crap back. I'll be like, oh, do you think I'm going to do it because you want me to do it? Like, so how many times have I been in a bar and people will try to get me to drink and I'll like sit there and I'll be like, that's so fascinating. Like somehow, and for some reason, me making the decision that I've made makes you feel some sort of
Makes you
way
feel
where,
uncomfortable. It's about
yeah,
their discomfort, not about us, because we're super comfortable with not drinking.
sure, 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 sure. I think it's absolutely fascinating. Yeah. So yeah, anyway, so my fundamental, the fundamental point I was bringing that up is just to say, I think it's important to have people in your community who you aspire to be like in some form or fashion. You don't need to aspire to be like them in totality. You don't need to, you're not trying to make a clone of them. But I do think it is important to have people who you aspire to be like in some form or fashion, and you want to push yourself, in a positive way to be more like them. And ultimately, I do think it also makes sense that you need to be able to identify um, energy thieves, right? People who are either draining your energy or people who are trying to push you towards becoming a lesser version of yourself, a worse off version of yourself. Personally, when I come across those people, I just cut them off. I like maybe there's something wrong with me. I have no problem cutting off people who I feel like will not help me become a better me. If you're not helping me become a fitter me, a better me overall, like, and you want me to oh, get drunk every weekend and do drugs with you and sit on the couch and eat Doritos and stop going to the no, I'm just like, we have no reason to know each other, so
I love that. I love that story. And I've become like so ruthless about that in the last 2 years.
I love
It's
it.
crazy. And I
Cut
was
them
actually
off.
talking, I was talking about this on Sevon's podcast once about like how I am so protective of who I spend my time with. And
Sure.
some guy commented, he was like, oh, you're just like a bitch or whatever. And I was like, I don't actually care what you think of me, dude. Honestly, here's the thing. Like when I'm at an event or a conference, you'll see me all around, like talking to anybody. But Nick, how many people do you see me spending more than 5 minutes with? Not
True.
many. For instance,
True.
at the CrossFit Health Summit, I would
Mhm.
spend time with you.
Mhm.
I would spend time with Ernie. I would spend time with Kenny. I would spend time with maybe like two, three other people for more than 2 minutes because
Mhm.
those are the people that I feel safe with.
Mhm.
The people who inspire me and who are authentic and show up authentically. And it's almost like I'm allergic to being around people who aren't able to show up authentically. And that's
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
So
And,
that was
and
interesting.
and what does that mean too? That means that you need to be a good judge of that, right?
Yeah.
You need to quickly be able to pick up on
Trust
that. And
my
yeah,
intuition.
absolutely, absolutely, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
let
Karen, you need to tell them the story of how we met, like in 2000, what was it, 2019 or 2020? But I met Karen. It was level one. It was in Nashville, Tennessee, and yeah, I mean, she just had like a vibrant, energetic person. I remember actually when I first met you, I was like, this woman has way too much energy. I was like, I have no idea what's going on here. But clearly, there was a connection, and I was like, okay, I like how genuine she is, and I met a lot of people that day. I met Greg Glassman that day. That was an awesome meet. So yeah, I think that just our connection ever since we met, has been one where I definitely value everything about you. I value kind of the knowledge, the wisdom, the opinions that you give me in my life, and yeah, I think you're pretty awesome.
Oh, I love you. I saw you. I spotted you at that L1. I was like, he's going to be my friend. And I made that decision. And you really had very little choice in the matter. No, I'm just kidding. Like, you definitely choose very consciously who's in your life, which behaviors are in your life. And you've
Sure.
demonstrated that over. But I don't want to, let's talk about your community. What is it? Where is it? What was the need for it? And yeah, also thank you for all the awesome comments coming in. Like, love you guys.
Hi, Tiffy. Yeah, so Tiffy was responding to Ernie. Yes, we become like the tribe we surround ourselves with. It's funny, Tiffy, that's literally the name of my community, the Fittest Tribe. Um, essentially, I noticed something, right? And I think it took age, it took, some years to come to put it together. But in residency, Karan, I was consistently the doctor who was, I wouldn't say chastised, because I think my program director genuinely wanted what was best for me and the other resident doctors, but it was always brought to note that I would spend a lot of time with my patients, and I would be in the room with them for way too long, and this is obviously within the context of a healthcare system which prioritizes 5 to 15 minute appointments, with the shorter appointments being better, right? Just get them in and get them out as quickly as possible. And I have personally always had an issue with that, because I think that approach most highly prioritizes medication suspension. And here, let me take out my prescription pad and write you a prescription for whatever the case may be. And personally, I've always been the type of person to encourage and desire almost a root cause analysis and figuring out, okay, well, you clearly symptomatically, from a signs and symptoms standpoint and a diagnostic criteria standpoint, you have this malady, you have this pathology. However, thankfully, you have the early stage of this pathology. It's not like it's end stage. It's not like it's beyond reversal. So more often than not, with my patients, I would like to just sit down and just go into detail on their life, go into detail on their lifestyle, on their choices, on their mindset. As you can imagine, that's not something you can do in 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So observing that, and then also observing the fact that there's thanks to my Instagram and my social media, I've noticed a lot of people truly seek community, especially people who want to consistently make the best of choices, and they don't like doing this. They don't like yo-yoing and having some degree of progress, and then they slide back down, and then they put in some more effort, and just constantly. More often than not, with people like that, it's because they are surrounding themselves with people who are not conducive to their progress, who are not conducive to their overall goal. So I think with the combination of those two things that I mentioned, and then the last one being that all too often people will message me on Instagram over the years asking me for advice from hey, lifting weights. You know how many times I've had people message me, do I need to CrossFit? And I'm like, no, you don't need to. Like, you need to find what you enjoy, right, and what you can be consistent with, and you need to do that. But I just get all types of questions on Instagram, right, from nutrition to supplements to lifting weights to sleep to just everything across the board, where I was like, okay, well, I think a solution for this, for all three of these rather, is to just form a community of people who all have, if not the same mindset, at least we all have the same desire. We're all trying to get to the same place, right? Nobody in my community smokes marijuana or smokes cigarettes and then they're telling everybody else, like, hey, let's get together and have a smoke session. Nothing like that, right? We all kind of understand that longevity and vitality in life should be the priority, and we're all making choices in that direction. So I think that, personally, uh, that's why I was most excited about creating a community. And I only just started it. It hasn't even been alive that long. We started it about a month and a half ago, and we currently have 50 members. And, it's definitely been something that I've been enjoying growing, because I've been making, so I have a whole bunch of video courses that I put together in there. I put together meal plans, literally daily meal plans that people can follow. In terms of breakfast, lunch, dinner for the entire month. There are a bunch of recipe packs. There are courses, there are video courses I put together on improving your sleep, on improving your lean mass, putting on more muscle mass, which, as you know, Karen, and Dr. Gabriel Lyon and other physicians are trumpeting loudly these days. I think doing as much as you can in your middle age years and even younger to put on lean mass is incredibly advantageous from a longevity and vitality standpoint. So I've put together courses for adding lean mass, for losing fat mass, for on the fundamentals of nutrition, what we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
Literally, I have an eight lesson video course on nutrition fundamentals and why they're important. And I'm putting together other courses on hormones, whether it's cortisol or menopause or low testosterone, how to address these things naturally and without medication for people who desire to do so. Because I get it. Listen, there are going to be some people who, how many men I've had message me on Instagram? Oh, doc, I have hypogonadism, right? I have a low testosterone. I'm going to get on TRT. And it's almost like that's their reflex, right? They just feel that, okay, well, because they have low testosterone and the symptoms associated with low testosterone, that they should just get on TRT. So yeah, with the community, I'm essentially hoping to address education, obviously community support, which then lends itself to people being consistent with a chosen set of actions, having somebody to ask questions to, like myself. And it's been awesome so far, and I enjoy everything about it, because I've fundamentally, since med school, I've just always been the type of person who I like to do root cause analysis. I like to figure out what is causing an issue instead of just prescribing a medication. And at least with this community, right, I can talk as long as I want to, instead of being told by someone, hey, I can only talk to someone for 5 or 10 minutes and being forced to just prescribe a medication instead.
That's awful. Hey, so we can find the community on Instagram at the Fittest Doc, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's in my bio. It's in my bio of my Instagram. But otherwise, I also do have a website, the fittestyou.org. Let me actually check and make
What?
sure. I don't
The
want to tell you.
fittest?
Yeah, so my website is just the fittestyou.org. I just want to hold on. Give me 1 second. Yeah, so it's yes, the fittestyou.org is my website. And then if you go to, do you see it? www.thefittestyou.org.
You spelled UYOU.org?
Yes.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah. So on that website, there's a red button where that says join the tribe, which obviously will take you to join the tribe. And I also offer a free nutrition masterclass for people who want that. And then something that I'm actually starting, I just thought about this right now. Something that some it's something that I'm starting May 1st is I'm actually starting a challenge. It's going to be a free challenge. Anyone can join. But for starting from May 1st for the next 4 weeks, it's a month-long challenge. It's a clean eating challenge where
Ooh,
every week, yep, where every week I will give people everything they need from videos describing what we need to do, worksheets, and then obviously you'll have community. So completely free. I'd love anyone who wants to join that challenge to join because it's something that I put together. It's like I said, right? It's called a clean eating challenge. You could actually join that. I actually just made a post about that on Instagram. If you want to join specifically that challenge, just go to my Instagram. Made I think a 8 or 9 picture carousel post about it. And obviously I'll be sharing the news with people from now until the 1st of May. So if you see any of the posts where I comment on the challenge, you can leave a comment on that post and we can get you right into the challenge. I'm super excited about it because I think I'm just going to start hosting because people really like these challenges where people are encouraged to change an aspect of their lifestyle. I think people just resonate with that. Obviously, on any one of these challenges, I would actually, towards the end of the challenge, I would encourage people to be consistent. Nothing says that just because we're at the end of the challenge, you have to stop. You can absolutely continue to be consistent. But I think people just need a little bit of a boost to help them initially kind of get started.
yeah.
And I would love to provide that.
I love that. Okay, Nick, I want to shift gears to something that it's a theme that I've seen come up on your channel consistently. I don't know how
Mhm.
you're going to feel about answering this, but I'm going to put you on the spot here. So let's talk about.
I don't even know what this is. Well, why would you? How about you just don't? I don't know what it is, but how about you just don't ask it, Carl?
Well, because I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to challenge you. So let's talk about gender roles and how women show up and how men
Show off.
show up. Women
Okay.
and men.
Uh-huh.
Women
Mhm.
being, you will sometimes screenshot conversations of women's behavior online. And do you know what I'm talking about?
No, because I do that with men and women. I literally my Instagram. I show screenshots all the time of everybody, irrespective of gender.
Okay. All right. Okay.
But I still like this conversation. So go
Okay.
on.
Go,
Let's
go.
go.
No, roll with what you think I'm saying. I don't have a
No.
specific I don't actually have a specific example. I just remember I think it
Mhm.
was when there was a woman that was just being very aggressive and very masculine in her approach to maybe dating somebody or getting out there. And you were talking about these gender roles and how I think they've become kind of warped, right? And how there's such a space for like this feminine and this masculine. And I really love that. So that's what I'm wanting to explore if you're willing to go there.
I mean, I don't. I don't know that what I would say is anything anyone would disagree with. I think that there are everybody has a role. Like a doctor and a plumber are equally as equally important but completely different, right? They have completely different roles. They have completely different jobs. You're not gonna call a doctor when you need a plumber, and you're not gonna call a plumber when you need a doctor. I think that one of the fundamental reasons that human beings have become the dominant species on this planet is because we are able to, throughout from birth all the way to end of life, we're able to each become very good at separate things, which then obviously holistically within a society enable us to dominate the planet and literally become the dominant species. So I think that It's very important, whether we're talking, you know, individual people or, you know, between men and women in a relationship, or otherwise. I think it's very important for people to know, you know, what is important. What role do I play? For example, the other day I was thinking to myself, and this is super interesting, but I was thinking to myself how, as a man, when you commit, when you get into a relationship with a woman and you commit to her, all of a sudden, and you probably are aware of this, but I know as a man, it's happened to me. Like, something switches in your head where you automatically want to, you don't want to die to protect the person that you're with, but you're willing to.
Oh,
You're no, no, no. This is what I'm saying. This isn't unique to me. Literally, ask any man who's ever been in love with a woman. If something were to happen you're out at the grocery store and someone's acting aggressively towards your wife or towards your girlfriend, are you willing to put yourself in a position where your safety as a man is compromised to protect her safety? Any guy who genuinely loves a woman that he's with will literally, without a shadow of a doubt and without hesitation, say absolutely, right? And I think that, personally, if you back up and look at that, that is a role, Karan. That is a role that we simply play as men, and I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think also, right. I'm not a parent yet, but I can absolutely. I was talking to a father the other day, and I can absolutely imagine that if I, in the future, with my son or my daughter, if anybody were to, let's say an adult were to physically threaten my son or my daughter, would I give my life up to either try to protect them or to protect them with certainty? I absolutely would. So I
that's
think that
me.
if you think about that as a man, that's simply our, like that, like, who programmed that into me? That wasn't. I don't think that that's a function of programming. I think that, like, as men, like, that's literally in our genes to want to protect the people that we love, in insofar as going to the point of our death and sacrificing ourselves so that they may live. So I think that, I have no right to speak on what is a woman's role. That's something that you have to figure out as a woman. But I know me as a man, right? I think that there are certain roles that a guy has, and I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. Now, let's flip the coin. Would I expect my girlfriend or my wife to, if there's a physical altercation, would I expect her to jump, up and defend me to death? Absolutely not. That's my job, right? I don't expect that of you. So I think that, understanding that each and every person I'm sorry, understanding that the two people in a relationship can be equal when you look at things holistically, right? We're equal. We're equal as human beings. We have equal value as human beings, but we can absolutely have roles that complement one another. Ultimately, I think that's what, in my opinion, that's what a man and woman in a relationship are. We are complementary. We are not the same. We are not exactly equivalent. We have equal value as human beings, but we complement one another. What you lack, I have, and what I lack, you have, and that's why, we're attracted to one another. I think the simplest way to say that, and I know for sure this is the case with me, is that I'm attracted to polarity. If I met a woman who literally acted just like I do in every manner, all her characteristics were like me, I would not be. I, I don't care physically what she looks like. I would absolutely not be attracted to that because I already have those things. That's not a compliment to me. Why would I be attracted to that? So yeah, I hopefully that answers your question.
No, absolutely. And I mean, I'm a big believer in this as well. And I think why it's resonating so much with me and why those comments really stand out for me is because I was in this corporate space and I felt like I had to show up like so hardcore, and I lost a part of myself, like a part of myself that I really love and that I really respect. This like, and I want to, it's not about sex, but this sensual female
Sure,
softness, that is what my power, that's where my power lies.
sure.
Um and so I
And
think
here's the
like,
thing. Here's the thing. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
no, of
That is
course.
an enormous amount of power that you have. Like that those characteristics you just displayed. If a man displayed those characteristics to me, I would not be attracted to that. But when a woman displays those same characteristics, I literally sometimes I thought to myself, like, I need to stay away from that girl. She could literally get me to do whatever she wants by that display of characteristics. Like that is dangerous. I need to stay away, right? So yeah, I think that it's a different type of, like, my type of power is completely different than that.
Yeah.
But I think that that is absolutely powerful when you are able to tap into the genuine you, you know?
Yeah, totally. And I think it's about that. It's about that authentic, genuine you and embracing it, flaws and all. Um, because I think that's where true happiness lies, in all honesty, is not trying to fit into a stereotype or a mold, especially in today's society where it is so complex and so all over the place. Like, what is it that
Yes.
I value and appreciate by myself, my womanhood, my sensuality, my sexuality, like everything about that. Anyway, so the conversation took a bit of a turn, but I wanted to acknowledge that because I think it is important for me and people my age.
Nobody has ever asked me that question. I think in the last month I've had like 5 podcast interviews. None of them have asked me anything like that. And I mean, it's you definitely popped my cherry there, Karen. That's all you. That's brand new.
Well, here's the thing. We're such good friends that I notice like little nuances and stuff, right? And conversations and things that you have. Anyway, we're
Sure.
coming to the end of the show. It's been so fun. I love any time I get to spend with you. Have we not covered anything that you want to touch on?
No, no, I could. The thing with you, Karen, and I've said this to you before. Like we could just talk for hours. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's I could come back on in the future, but I think that if we just let the cameras keep rolling, we could just keep talking. But people don't have the entire day to just listen to us blabber on about random questions that come to your mind.
A funny story about you before we finish. So Nick obviously works really hard to have this incredible body that he does, right? In what he eats, in what he, like how he works out. So when I had the merchandise for CrossFit Health, Nick would always request, and Nick's big. How tall are you?
6'2".
Nick would
What?
always request a medium woman's tank and t-shirt because
That's not correct. That is a blatant. That is a patently false lie. Okay. Now, what I would
I
ask
have
for,
pictures.
no, 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 no. What I would ask for is medium. I never would say medium women's. Like I would just say, oh, you'd ask me like what shirt size, and I would say medium. And here's the thing, Karan. Every shirt, okay, let's back up. Let's back up. So when I was a teenager, right? My dad, who's like also 6'2", he would always buy. He would go to Sam's Club and all these clothing places, and he would buy me double XL tops. And here's the thing: one time, I said this in the most respectful. I've always believed you should be very respectful to your parents, right? Never be rude, never be disrespectful. So I found a very respectful way to tell my Dad, the only reason that you buy double XL tops for me is because you have a gut. And in an attempt to hide that gut, like a lot of men do, you buy shirts that are too big because you think that everyone who you walk past is deceived and they don't know that I have a big belly because, like, come on, like, you think people are really that dumb? And then I told him, I was like, Dad, given that fact, you don't need to buy me double XL shirts because I'm sorry, but I don't have I don't have a gut. I don't have a lot of central adiposity, right? Which is what a gut is. It's essentially a lot of visceral fat around your stomach, right? And clearly, with my approach to life, mostly CrossFit, I have made it to 40, still not having a belly, right? I don't have a gut. So I am very much shaped like a V. So if I'm shaped like a V, why would it make sense for me to be in shirts that are double XL? Like every Karan, this shirt is a medium. Every shirt that I have is a medium. It's not a big deal. Like they fit me because of my body shape. Like I'm not over here. Look, give me a medium women. It's like that's not what I'm doing. Come on. Oh.
And there, my friends, he proved the point. Okay. Okay,
Karen.
Nick.
I'm literally gonna clip this. I'm gonna clip this and tag you. Oh my lord, Karen. You made me just go. You made me
I,
go into an anecdote from my teenage years
I
off
love
of
that.
a.
Listen, I have the most beautiful pictures of you wearing a woman's medium tank top at the
Let me
CrossFit Games one year.
okay, so first of all, if you are correct, then here's the thing. I want to see the text message where I literally said I want a medium women's. I just said I want a medium men's. I didn't say a women's. That was you.
Okay, fine, because it was my tank top that I was wearing essentially. Anyway, I'm gonna post a picture of the tank top here. But okay, so I poked the bear. I am so good at
See,
pushing the
Ernie, she totally did. She's just trying to get me to go off. See, that's the thing. Kara's way too comfortable with me, where she's like, "Yeah, let me just try to set Nick off."
Okay, okay, all right. Well, okay, Nick, so any cool speaking engagements coming up or anywhere that people can meet you in person?
Yeah, so Kenny, who you know just as well as I do, Strong New York, he invited me. I spoke at Strong New York, not last year, but the year before last. I wasn't able to go last year. He wants me there this year again. So I don't know what I'm going to speak on, but I'll nerd out on something. Can't wait to do it. In fact, when I go, one of the things that I do with my one-on-one coaching clients is that I do comprehensive metabolic testing. It's actually I have an approach as it pertains to improving metabolic health in a holistic fashion, and the fundamental crux of that approach is I do cardiometabolic testing, and then I do body composition testing, and then only from there do I make somebody a personalized plan, and we follow it for 20 weeks, and I get them results that they never had before, blah blah blah. But the reason why I bring that up is that at Strong New York, I think I'm trying to set it up that I actually bring $11,000 of metabolic testing equipment. So I'm going to bring it, and then people will be able to. I will be able to test people there, and I won't be able to give people results immediately there because I need to crunch some numbers before I give people results. But I'll be able to test people, and then maybe they can set up a Zoom appointment with me, and we can go over their results and take things from there. But yeah, Strong New York is the next speaking engagement that I have, and yeah, it should be fun. We'll see.
Can I may I request to be your assistant at that at that event and the testing that you have to do? And can I dress up?
Only if you wear an extra small tank top. Oh, I can't believe I just said that.
Oh, Nick. Okay, perfect. So we will both be at Strong New York November 2nd, I think. No,
Sure,
October 2nd or 3rd in New
sure.
York.
Yeah,
Go check out at Kenny Santucci on Instagram. And then I've dropped the
yep,
link to Strong New York below. It's going to be super fun.
yep.
And then where can we find you online, Nick, on social media?
So my Instagram is my biggest platform. It's just the Fittest Doc. Oh, Ernie's gonna see. You know what? No, Ernie's gonna be my assistant, not you, Carl. But no, I'm teasing. I'm teasing. So no, yeah, no. My social media, the one that I'm most prolific on is Instagram. But I'm actually thinking about diversifying that. I just need to. One of the things we didn't touch on today,
Yeah.
which anybody who knows me will know that I'm a very big fan of, is I'm a fan of only doing only things that somebody finds sustainable, right? So only engaging in methods that are sustainable. This is why I don't like things like, Ozempic or any other medication that has a lot of side effects that you can't sustain. So the reason why I just went off on this aside and brought this up is because uh, I'm trying to figure out how to branch off from just Instagram to other social media, but to do so, I'm trying to basically plan a way of doing so in a sustainable manner that I could post on YouTube, right? I would love to actually post 5 to 10 to 15 minute YouTube videos on different educational topics
Yes.
surrounding lifestyle medicine, and I would love to do so in a sustainable manner. And then TikTok and Facebook, but yeah, for right now, the thing that you can find me on most prolifically is Instagram, and then in the future, it'll be other social medias as I find ways to do so in a sustainable manner, probably with the same exact username, which is all one word, the Fittest Doc.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Nick. Thank you for coming on today. Thank you for being willing to jump in a live interview where
Sure.
we cannot edit, for being willing to answer all my questions, sometimes so random. I am so grateful for our friendship and for just everything you bring to this world.
Yeah, no, you too, Karen. This is my first. I think this is my first live podcast. So this is quite the experience. But yeah, I think it actually helps too that I can't see people's comments until you pop them up. And then
Oh,
Ernie and yeah, Ernie and Tiffy are being super supportive. And I appreciate everyone who took the time out of their day to watch this podcast. And furthermore, I appreciate you guys being supportive. It always helps.
absolutely. Thanks, everyone. We wouldn't be able to do this without you. So super grateful.
Yep.
Bye.